Harrison saw Bert's here today. He could probably sing the opera for you.
All right, this is great. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Glad you're here. This is a wonderful crowd and a great tradition. What is the preferred Jewish delicacy, the latke or the hamantaschen? This has been debated for over 1,000 years, and finally, tonight, we're going to have a resolution. We have two outstanding debaters for this evening's program. They really, and they've prepared, they've done worldwide research, consistent.
Which world?
I don't know. I'm sure there are some cars that need to be parked in the parking lot. Very good. I'll do the jokes. Applause. Applause. Oh, hiss. Very good. Okay, thank you. You know, we have a doctor and a lawyer debating the question tonight, and these two actually encountered. I was witness to their encounter at an Oneg Shabbat. This was a number of years ago, and Neil Marcus, the attorney, John Alexander, the doctor, were talking, and they both were surrounded by different groups, and they got off into a corner together, and I was with them. And I heard the following encounter. Dr. Alexander said, you know, I have to confess something. It drives me crazy. Every time I come to shul, people pull me aside and ask me questions about their health. It drives me nuts. I can't do what I want to do here. I can't even enjoy myself. And Neil Marcus said, I know exactly how you feel. The same thing used to happen to me. And Dr. Alexander said, Neil, what do you do? How did you stop it? And Neil Marcus said, it's very easy. I gave them a word of advice, and then I sent them a bill the next day. So Dr. Alexander said, that's not a bad, I'm not finished yet. The two of you must have worked out the deal. Dr. Alexander said, wow, I'm really embarrassed. I mean, that's really not a very nice thing to do, but okay, if that works. So he went back to his office, and the next day he prepared bills. And he went to the mailroom, and he noticed that there was mail for him. And there was a bill from Neil Marcus. All right, now. You know the problem with lawyers' jokes? I have heard many of them myself. The problem with lawyers' jokes, lawyers never think they're funny. You notice that? They never think they're funny. And everybody else doesn't think they're jokes. All right. The first debater representing the hamantaschen as the preferred Jewish delicacy is none other than the esteemed, internationally acknowledged great. You know the difference between a good lawyer and a great lawyer?
Yes, cute.
A good lawyer knows the law. A great lawyer knows the judge. A great lawyer acknowledged by everyone, representing the hamantaschen, Neil Marcus.
Oh, so we're up here at the table.
Where do you want them to be?
You're right there.
You're right here. Neil?
Right here, okay,
Neil?
well, this is,
Neil!
yes,
You gotta get sustenance!
I'm gonna get my props together.
Looks just like...
Slot my foot.
against the time.
It's against your time.
Neil, time's a wasting. You're in your billy fighting elsewhere.
This
Minute.
is Purim. And my research said that you're supposed to get so drunk at Purim that you can't distinguish Haman from Mordecai. So we'll start for Purim. Actually, I learned more in my research about Purim than I ever really thought I wanted to know, in spite of Ruth Gruber's attempts to teach it to me when I was a kid. You tried. I had to learn all over again. But the Hamantashen is clearly related to the holiday of Purim. As a matter of fact, there's no question that when it comes to Latkes and Hamantashen, that Hamantashen go back much further in Jewish culture and time. As a matter of fact, there are a lot of people who really would have trouble identifying latkes with the Jewish traditions because they're made from potatoes. And potatoes, of course, are basically Irish. And so, of course, tomorrow is St. Patrick's Day coming up on Monday, and we'll have a potato holiday. But the Hamantashen goes back to the story of the Megillah, the Big Megillah. And the Big Megillah, for those of you who remember, is the only story in Jewish liturgy that doesn't reference God at all. So I'm safe on this one. But the idea was, as I said, to consume enough alcohol and to make it it's been referred to as the Jewish Mardi Gras, which is also appropriate. But anyway, the Hamantashen itself is the source of all things triangular. The Hamantashen is clearly the superior food just by its shape. So the Hamantashen is the origin of the tri-corner hat. Without the Hamantashen, Paul Revere, remember him, the guy who invented cookware? Paul Revere would have ridden off into the night and nobody would have noticed him because he wouldn't have had a tri-cornered hat. Johnny Depp's whole career. It's amazing. The number three. In the Jewish community in Danbury, we have the tri-corner building that was built by Harry Dick, who was the brother of Henry Dick, who was one of the founders of the synagogue. It still exists on the corner of Elm and Main and White Street because it's based on the Hamantashen. I mean, when I found out that came out of the Hamantashen, it was unreal. How many musketeers do you have? Three. Guess what? They were based on the Hamantashen. The Christian religion recognizes the sacred Trinity, three. You know, a lot of you probably saw the painting that Andy Warhol did of the Last Supper, and the Last Supper, of course, was a Seder, you know, but it came right after Purim, and there's actually a Hamantashen in the picture, and it actually was John the Baptist who was saying to Jesus, they knew that what was going to happen. The Romans were little bastards. I mean, they were bad. But so John the Baptist said to Jesus that he looked at the Hamantashen and he said, you know, when you go, we'll refer to this as the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. And there we go. So that's the Hamantashen. Comes right out the mouth. Now, there are, of course, in the American tradition, the three branches of government, based again on the Purimkah. We have the judiciary, we have the legislature, and we have the executive branch. And my research assistant actually came up with a very, very interesting fact that the number 3 figures into the entire scheme of the United States government because the Federalist Paper number 33, 2 3s, the Federalist Paper number 33, that was the lost paper, is written Wednesday, January 2nd, 1788. And it was written by Alexander Hamilton, of course, And he, in this paper, announces the supremacy clause, which gives the federal government supremacy in certain areas over the state. All of this based on a Purimkah. It is just amazing. The French have invented my favorite meal, the ménage à trois. And all based on a Purimkah. But then again, why is a Chumintashen so much superior to the latke? I mean, that's what we're really here for. Well, first of all, the Chumintashen has two separate elements to it. It has a filling inside of a crust. And so it contains healthy foods. It contains fruit and fiber. And it's always stuffed with apricots or poppy seeds or prunes. What could be better? The latke, on the other hand, of course, is fried in oil. And it is made with potatoes. And so on a health basis, there is no question that the deep frying of the latkes are not as healthy. And actually, it's a pretty boring meal because it's just sort of this round thing, and it's one entity, potato. So Chumintashen, it's got fruit and fiber. You can't beat it. Interestingly enough, the Chumintashen is much more Jewish because there's a guy in the Bible named David. You guys remember David? David actually, I'll show you. David, at Purim one year, was playing around with his Chumintashen, and he went around and he said, "Oh my God, look at that. It makes a great star." Voila. The basis of the Star of David is the Chumintashen. That's a new one on even him. Amazing what you can find when you read the Bible. You want to read the Bible once. It's amazing, you know? Terrific. I need to do that. You should do that. Now, the latke, though, as I said, the latke is actually interesting. The latke is not Jewish at all. It's a descendant of an Italian pancake that was made with ricotta cheese. That was the original concept that was ripped off for latkes. And actually, even though I allege that potatoes are really basically an Irish food because of the great potato famine, the potato was actually discovered by the Spaniards in Colombia in 1537. 1537. I mean, that is so far after the Megillah. I mean, Purim had come and gone centuries, actually centuries before, and yet along comes a potato in 1537, and interestingly enough, the Spaniards didn't go to Colombia to buy potatoes. A lot of people, the Spaniards may do some pretty silly things, but they were actually looking for gold, and what they came back with was potatoes. And then potatoes were started to be planted in Eastern Europe because they were quick growing food and everybody was starving in those days, and potatoes became popular. And actually, the Ashkenazi Jews made the first potato latkes, and they were traced to the 1800s. So the potatoes themselves, in the whole idea of potato pancakes, have come along very, very late. And interestingly enough, the latke is really identified with Hanukkah, not Purim. And, you know, if there's a great myth about that. The idea is that a lot of people think that the Maccabees were sitting around having potato latkes while they were defending the temple and watching the oil deplete itself, or not deplete itself. They were not. I mean, the oil that the Maccabees were using was definitely in the lamps, and they were not deep frying latkes. So the whole idea that potato pancakes are related to the Hanukkah celebration in history